Good morning, everybody. My name is MichaelAngelo, and this is Pokemon Go. Specifically, the Go Battle League. I'm going to assume that you know what Pokemon Go is and what the Go Battle League entails, but the long short version is the Battle League is the game's equivalent of competitive play. Season 1 ended on May 11th, and instead of having an off-season time period, Niantic decided to roll right into Season 2. Rewards have been given, and the grind to reach rank 10 begins anew, and that's why we're here. You see, during Season 1, I didn't make it past rank 7, and it was kind of infuriating. I got up to rank 7 in the Great League, and I did great. I mean, no pun intended. I did really solid. I got up to rank 7 before we even changed into the next league, but I couldn't progress past it. Even if I was fighting in the Ultra League, even if I was fighting in the Master League, I just couldn't move forward. So I wanted to do better. I wanted to be better. So I decided that when Season 2 rolled around, I would record all my gameplay and basically make a Road to Rank 10 video. What you're currently watching right now is a few cleanup matches from a set that I had accidentally partially started before Season 1 had ended and never actually finished. So I'm cleaning up those matches. As soon as these matches are done, I'm going to start commentating and shoutcasting, or term stolen from Zionic, by the way. But it's a really good idea to just keep track of what I'm doing and see what I did wrong in those matches, what I could maybe do better for my next set of matches. On the left side of the screen, you're going to see the Pokemon that I'm currently using for the set and their moves and typings. Towards the end of the video, I can do a bit of a breakdown and discuss the decisions of why these Pokemon have the moves that they have. Now let the real matches begin. I'm going to be starting these matches by using a premium raid pass. I don't want to be sound cocky, but if I use the premium raid passes and win a lot of my matches, I get a lot more rewards early on in the season rather than wasting them in the later half. But as we see on the opening match, we're starting off with a great lead. Alolan Marowak versus Registeel is really solid. The Fire Spin is going to do major amounts of damage, just building up energy and farming it down. And if I wanted to, I could spam a Bone Club or two, but then my opponent decides to bounce out. That's what Venusaur is designed for. Whenever with Alolan Marowak as the lead, it will counter a lot of the major things. The things that it doesn't counter, Venusaur has a good matchup against. So if I have a good lead and they don't, and they switch out, then I can switch in to something that just counters their counter. I'm meta-ing them at this point. Venusaur just completely dominates this Wish Cache, but I could have used a shield in that moment, because while they did switch back into Registeel, you'll see in a little bit, I got hit by a lag issue. I had enough energy to get 2 Frenzy Plants off, but because of this lag spike right here, it's stuck. Like, I get the animation, and I should have been able to farm a few more hits, but I didn't get the chance to because the animation the game decided to lag on me. So I switch back into Alolan Marowak. I'm just going to keep farming him down with Fire Spin, keep using the Bone Club. Decide to use a shield here because my Alolan Marowak is pretty low. Yes, I can resist the Flash Cannon, but but it's still gonna do a significant chunk of damage, and I don't think I could have gotten lethal in at this point. In fact, I felt like I should have gotten lethal in, but they had enough energy stored away to fire off another Flash Cannon before I could actually finish them off. So even though that happened, I go into Clefable and just slap it down, and I should have been able to get a few more hits, but once again I got hit by another lag spike, and the game wasn't letting me fire off moves properly. I think this is what cost me this game, if I'm remembering correct. But yeah, firing off moves. Meteor Mash would do an okay amount of damage against the Fairy typing on the Azumarill. The Water typing resisted. Charm, if I had not been hit by that lag spike whenever I first brought Clefable in, I could have actually won that match. But GG's, that was just a unfortunate circumstance of lag right there. On to rank 2. My opponent leads with an Alolan Marowak, Alolan Sandshrew, then switches into an Alolan Marowak. I think they recognized that the Steel and Ice typing would have been really weak to the Fire Spin, so they decided to swap out. I decided to keep going until I built up to a Shadow Ball and see if I can try to farm my opponent, see if I can catch my opponent off guard with that. Clearly, they knew that they had it and they didn't want to risk the damage. The Shadow Ball would have been really strong at that point. I tried switching into Clefable, and that was a little less successful. Switched back to Alolan Marowak after I got my charge move off, and started going for the Bone Club chip damage. That is what takes down this Marowak right there. And the Toxicroak is beautiful as well, because that's also weak to the ground type moves. So they bring the Toxicroak, and I just start spamming Bone Club now. Just over and over and over again. Shadow Ball is not going to be doing anything to this to the fighting typing here, and I'm also going to be resisting their fighting typing at the same time, or their Mud Bomb at the same time. I think that was Mud Bomb. Actually, I shouldn't have been resisting it, so I don't know why the shield was blue at that point. But anyway, I still haven't brought out Venusaur into this fight. This is beautiful. I'm just chipping them away with Fire Spin and Bone Club damage the entire time. I only had to bring in Clefable to to take down the Marowak. Never had to bring Venusaur into that fight, and I don't think I burned through both my shields. On to fight 3, this is another great lead. That Steel and Bug typing on the Scizor is super weak to the Fire Spin, and unfortunately for my opponent, they did start the match with a bit of a lag issue as well. That is one of the unfortunate downsides to this game, that the servers are not perfect, so lag issues are very abundant. And I just take down the Scizor before it can even do anything. They switch into a Charizard, and as you saw, the Bone Club and the Fire Spin were doing a lot of damage. I think I fired off Shadow Ball, not Bone Club, but regardless, I still dealt a significant amount of damage to take down the Charizard. They chose not to shield the first one, which was kind of interesting. Then they use the shield halfway through, and now they use the second shield with the Lapras right here. The Marowak is still just knocking them down. Honestly, if I had played my shields right, I might have been able to solo this entire match with just the Marowak. Once again, bring in Venusaur, choose to keep the shield up just in case. I didn't really need it at that point. The Vine Whip Frenzy Plant combination was going to be more than enough to take down the Lapras beforehand, but that's game 3. On to game 4. This is another poor matchup for me right there. The Vaporeon is actually going to be really strong against it, so I switch into Venusaur. They got hit with another lag spike, and then my opponent, because I've switched into Venusaur, switches into Altaria, which is a really hard matchup for me. I start to spam off Sludge Bomb because Grass-type moves are not going to be very effective against the Dragon and Flying-type moves, typings that Altaria is. So I just spam the Sludge Bomb to try to get their shields, if nothing else, and then I switch into Clefable. Clefable is my answer, because although the Marowak can't really deal with Altaria, Venusaur can't really deal with Altaria, but Clefable, with just charm damage alone, just takes down the Altaria like it was nothing. And then they bring back in the Vaporeon. I go without the shield here. Yeah, it was. I didn't expect it to have a pretty big move, so I just decided to take the hit. Decided to go with a Psychic because the Water typing is still resisting to Metal. And then this is just even better right here. They bring in Umbreon, which is weak to Fairy type moves. Charm from the Clefable by itself is just going to do work right here. So with with Clefable closing out the game, that was just beautiful right there. Against ZZZ, I see the Sunflora, and I think this is probably a guy who didn't have enough power in it. But I actually, looking at the CP, it actually was a pretty solid level, so it was actually kind of a spicy pick. I don't know what Sunflora really counters, but they saw the Marowak and knew the fire typing and decided to pull out the Sunflora into Toxicroak. I decided to hold it out a little bit, try to get a charge move off, and eventually switch into Venusaur, as you see, and I'm facepalming right now. I realize that they have that Toxicroak is fighting way too late. Charm and Clefable would have been a much better choice, and this whole time I'm thinking I've cost myself the match. I'm just facepalming myself so hard because I might have just cost myself the match. See, they had a Lapras in the back, and that Venusaur would have been great against the Lapras, but I wasn't paying attention and used Venusaur at the wrong time, and it cost me. So, they switch out the the Lapras into Sunflora after they take down my Venusaur, and I use Clefable to take down the Sunflora. This was supposed to be a relatively bad matchup. I had zero faith. I did technically have the shield advantage, and they were pretty low, so this would have been like, I think this was the saving grace for me, if nothing else. My opponent's Lapras was really low. I was going for a Shadow Ball, and then halfway through that last Shadow Ball, I realized, oh, they're really low. They have zero shields. Bone Club finishes it off, and that's the set right there. I got 4 out of 5 wins, so I will take the victories. And now let's talk about the teams. This is going to be a simplified version, so if you want a more in-depth explanation, leave a comment below saying so. I might do a primer video on team composition or my choice of team composition and stuff like that. Anyway, each Pokemon I use fits into one of 3 roles: my lead Pokemon, my cover Pokemon, and my switcher. Let's start with Gyarados, my lead. About 2 weeks before Season 2 started, I finally got an Alolan Marowak, and that's something I've had my eye on for quite a while. His Ghost and Fire typing was not only a kick-butt combo, but it also gave me a solid type of coverage against the league. Like, Fire Spin is perfect against the Steel and Grass types like Registeel or Venusaur that people might lead with. Shadow Ball hits like a truck if it's unshielded. And Bone Club gives me a cheaper move that I can just pressure my opponent with. Like, hey, use your shield or else. But his biggest weakness is Water-type Pokemon. You saw that with a Vaporeon matchup. That's why Beacon is my cover Pokemon. If my opponent brings in a Water-type Pokemon, then I switch into Venusaur that would directly cover that weakness. Venusaur is a tanky grass boy in general, and he gets better with the poison typing. He can wall most neutral threats, though I do have to be careful around ice type Pokemon like Lapras. Vine Whip is great for energy gaining. Frenzy Plant is a community day move, and they're just a proven staple of any league. And Sludge Bomb gives me extra bit of flexibility coverage. Like Poison Bomb can take down a surprise grass type if I needed to. And last is my switcher, Kroom. Looking at a top tier meta list, there are a couple of Pokemon Gyarados and Beacon don't fight very well against, namely like Altaria. Clefable's moveset and typing gives me a chance to cover those holes that Beacon couldn't quite fix. Being a pure fairy type, she laughs in the face of dragon type Pokemon as she just slaps them around with a charm. Charm overall is one of the hardest hitting fast moves in the game, though that is offset by its poor energy gain, so don't expect to get a lot of moves off with that. Meteor Mash gives me surprise coverage against other fairy type Pokemon that would try to wall her, and Psychic is just a good general move that was buffed not too long ago. And that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I'm going to try to get more videos out like this regularly until I hit rank 10. So, until next time, deuces.